Life has a way of making us feel like we're running late. We set timelines, chase dreams, and expect things to unfold exactly when we want them to. And when they don't, frustration, doubt, fear, we start questioning whether we're being ignored, forgotten, or worse, punished. But have you ever considered that delays aren't denials? That closed doors aren't rejections, but redirections? That silence isn't absence, but preparation? Think about the moments when things didn't go as planned, only for something better to unfold later. That job you didn't get, which made space for a career that truly fits. That relationship that ended, only for you to meet someone who sees and values you for who you truly are. That opportunity you missed, only to discover a path that aligns with your deepest purpose. We are wired for certainty. We want to know when, how, and why things will happen. And when life doesn't move at the pace we expect, we feel restless, frustrated, even defeated. It's hard to believe in perfect timing when all we see are delays. But what if delays aren't denials? What if they're simply part of a story that's still unfolding? Think about the moments in life when you thought you needed something immediately, only to realize later that you weren't truly ready for it. Or the times you felt abandoned, only to find out you were being protected from something that wasn't meant for you. We often mistake delay for rejection, but in reality, it's an act of love, a pause that prepares us, redirects us, and shapes us into who we need to be. It's easy to trust when things go according to plan. It's much harder when we're standing in the middle of uncertainty, waiting for doors to open. But real trust is built in those in-between moments, the ones where nothing seems to be happening. Those are the spaces where we grow, where we shed our need for control, where we learn that just because we can't see progress doesn't mean it's not happening. Life isn't a race. It's not about who gets there first or who has the most figured out. It's about becoming the kind of person who is ready when the right time comes. And sometimes that means waiting. Sometimes that means trusting that the delay isn't a punishment, but a preparation, because when the moment finally arrives, it will be exactly what you needed, exactly when you needed it, and you'll look back and realize the wait was never wasted. Rejection stings. It makes us question our worth, our path, and sometimes even our purpose. When a door closes, whether it's a job we didn't get, a relationship that ended, or an opportunity that slipped through our fingers, it's easy to believe we've been left behind. But what if rejection isn't failure? What if it's a redirection, guiding us towards something far better than we imagined? We spend so much time trying to force things to happen, convincing ourselves that if we just work harder, push more, or refuse to give up, we'll get what we want. But not everything we want is meant for us, and not everything meant for us arrives on our timeline. Sometimes what we think we need is actually limiting us. We hold on to relationships that keep us small, careers that drain us, and dreams that are too narrow for the person we're becoming. So when a door closes, it isn't always a loss. It's an invitation to step back, to trust, and to believe that something better is on its way. The hardest part is that we don't always see the why right away. We don't get a roadmap that explains every no, every detour, every unexpected turn. But if we look back, we'll see it, the patterns, the moments when a closed door led us to something we never would have chosen, yet it turned out to be exactly what we needed. That job we didn't get made space for the one that truly fulfilled us. That relationship that ended allowed us to grow into someone capable of loving and being loved in the way we deserve. That missed opportunity was never really missed. It was just pointing us in the direction we were always meant to go. So maybe the doors that close aren't a sign of failure. Maybe they're proof that we are being led, not left behind. And when we learn to trust the redirections, life opens in ways we never could have planned. Silence is uncomfortable. We crave answers, movement, and clarity. When things feel still, when we don't see progress, when we're left waiting with no explanation, we start to wonder if we've been forgotten. But silence is not absence. It is preparation. Think about nature, how seeds grow beneath the surface before breaking through the soil, how caterpillars transform in hidden cocoons before they ever take flight. Growth doesn't always announce itself. Change doesn't always make noise. But just because we don't see it happening doesn't mean it isn't. The quiet seasons of our lives are not empty. They are full of unseen work. The strength we'll need for the next chapter is being built in the waiting. The lessons we'll carry forward are being formed in the stillness, the parts of us that need to heal, to evolve, to let go. Those things happen when nothing seems to be happening at all. We live in a world that equates silence with inaction. If we're not busy, we feel like we're behind. If things aren't happening fast, we assume they never will. But what if the silence is actually an act of grace? What if it's a pause that's protecting us from moving too soon, from stepping into something we're not yet ready for? Sometimes we think we're prepared, but there's still work to be done, healing to take place, perspectives to shift, wisdom to be gained. Silence isn't withholding from us, it's making space for us. The waiting won't last forever. The doors that are meant to open will open. The answers will come, and when they do, we'll realize that the silence was never empty. It was never wasted. It was shaping us all along, preparing us for the life that was waiting on the other side. We rush. We plan, we set deadlines in our minds. By this age, I should have this job, this relationship, this level of success. And when life doesn't match our expectations, frustration creeps in. We compare our journey to others, wondering why things seem to come so easily for them while we're left waiting. But nothing truly meaningful happens too soon or too late. Everything unfolds in its perfect time. Think about the moments in life when you wanted something so badly, but it didn't happen the way you planned. Maybe it was a dream that didn't take off, a relationship that didn't work out, an opportunity that passed you by. At the time, it felt unfair, like life had overlooked you. But then, months or years later, something even better arrived, something you never saw coming. And suddenly, it made sense. The timing wasn't wrong before, you just couldn't see the full picture. There's a reason why seasons exist in nature. A flower doesn't bloom in winter. A tree doesn't bear fruit before it's strong enough to hold the weight. Everything follows a rhythm. And when we try to force things before their time, we miss out on the beauty of natural unfolding. We end up settling for things that aren't right for us simply because we're impatient for something to happen. But the best things in life aren't rushed. They arrive when we're ready to receive them, not just when we want them. Trusting the timing of our lives requires surrender. It requires believing that even when we don't understand the delays, there is wisdom behind them. And the best part, when the right thing finally arrives, there will be no forcing, no struggling, no second guessing. It will fit. It will feel right, and it will come at a time when we are truly prepared to embrace it. Because what is meant for us will never be too early, and it will never be too late. It will be exactly on time. We like to believe that if we work hard enough, plan carefully enough, and stay disciplined, life will go exactly the way we want it to. We cling to control because it makes us feel safe. It gives us the illusion that we are the architects of every outcome, that if we just push a little harder, we can force things to happen on our schedule. But real peace doesn't come from controlling the clock. It comes from trusting the process. There is freedom in surrender, not the kind of surrender that means giving up, but the kind that lets go of the fear of what if? What if I never get where I want to be? What if I miss my chance? What if things don't happen the way I planned? But what if, just for a moment, you let go of those fears and trusted that everything is unfolding exactly as it should? That nothing good will ever be lost to you, that what is meant for you is coming, not because you forced it, but because it was always yours to begin with. Life rarely moves in a straight line. The timing of things may not always match our expectations, but that doesn't mean we're behind. We're not running late. We're not being overlooked. We are being guided, shaped, prepared. And every moment we spend worrying about whether things are happening fast enough is a moment we miss living fully in the present. When we let go of the need to control everything, we make space for something even better. Peace, the kind of peace that isn't tied to circumstances, that doesn't depend on everything going according to plan, the kind of peace that allows us to breathe, to trust, to know deep in our bones that even when we don't have all the answers, we are exactly where we're meant to be. And that when the time is right, everything will fall into place, not because we forced it, but because it was always meant to. Disappointment has a way of making us feel like life is working against us. When things don't go as planned, when we face setbacks, when doors close in front of us, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that we are being punished or forgotten. But what if every setback is actually setting the stage for something greater? What if the things that feel like losses right now are simply part of a bigger story, one that we just can't see yet? Think about a time when something didn't work out the way you hoped. Maybe you poured your heart into a job only to be passed over for the opportunity. Maybe you invested in a relationship only to have it end in heartbreak. In the moment, it felt like failure, like life was pulling the rug out from under you. But then time passed, you grew, you changed, and looking back, you realized that what felt like an ending was actually a redirection. That closed door led you to something better. That disappointment shaped you, strengthened you, prepared you for something you never could have imagined at the time. We often want answers right away. We want to know why things happened the way they did, but sometimes we're not meant to understand in the moment. Sometimes we're meant to sit in the discomfort, to trust the uncertainty, to believe that even when things don't go our way, they are still working for our good. The truth is, every setback serves a purpose. Sometimes it's to protect us from something that isn't meant for us, that sometimes it's to protect us from something that isn't meant for us. Sometimes it's to stretch us, to help us grow into the version of ourselves that is capable of receiving something bigger. And sometimes it's simply because what we're waiting for isn't ready yet, or because we aren't ready for it. Disappointment has a way of making us feel like life is working against us. When things don't go as planned, when we face setbacks, when doors close in front of us, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that we are being punished or forgotten. But what if every setback is actually setting the stage for something greater? What if the things that feel like losses right now are simply part of a bigger story, one that we just can't see yet? Think about a time when something didn't work out the way you hoped. Maybe you poured your heart into a job only to be passed over for the opportunity. Maybe you invested in a relationship only to have it end in heartbreak. In the moment, it felt like failure, like life was pulling the rug out from under you. But then time passed, you grew, you changed, and looking back, you realized that what felt like an ending was actually a redirection. That closed door led you to something better. That disappointment shaped you, strengthened you, prepared you for something you never could have imagined at the time. We often want answers right away. We want to know why things happened the way they did. But sometimes we're not meant to understand in the moment. Sometimes we're meant to sit in the discomfort, to trust the uncertainty, to believe that even when things don't go our way, they are still working for our good. The truth is, every setback serves a purpose. Sometimes it's to protect us from something that isn't meant for us. Sometimes it's to stretch us, to help us grow into the version of ourselves that is capable of receiving something bigger. And sometimes it's simply because what we're waiting for isn't ready yet, or because we aren't ready for it. The hardest moments in life are often the ones that shape us the most. They teach us patience, resilience, and trust. They remind us that even when things feel uncertain, there is a plan unfolding, one that is far greater than anything we could have orchestrated on our own. And one day we will look back and see that every disappointment wasn't a dead end. It was a step forward, leading us exactly where we were always meant to be. We spend so much of our lives chasing, pushing, and trying to make things happen on our own timeline. We convince ourselves that if we just work harder, if we just do more, we can force the right opportunity, the right relationship, the right moment to arrive. But here's the truth. What is truly meant for you will never have to be forced. It will come when the time is right. And when it does, it will fit effortlessly. Think about the things in your life that have felt like an uphill battle. The situations where you've had to beg for recognition, prove your worth, or constantly fight to keep something from slipping through your fingers. Now think about the things that have come naturally, the moments that unfolded with ease, without resistance. There's a difference between working hard and forcing something that isn't meant to be. One strengthens you, the other drains you. We hold on to things that aren't right for us because we fear that nothing better will come. We settle for relationships that make us question our value, jobs that don't fulfill us, and paths that don't align with who we truly are. But when something is meant for you, it won't require constant struggle. That doesn't mean there won't be effort, but it won't be a battle just to keep it in your life. It will feel aligned. It will feel right. Timing matters. A fruit picked too early is bitter. A butterfly forced from its cocoon before it's ready cannot fly. When the right thing comes at the right time, there is a natural flow, a sense of peace, an unshakable knowing that you don't have to hold on for dear life because what is meant for you will stay. The doors that open for you won't need to be pried open. The people who are meant to walk with you won't need to be convinced to stay. The opportunities that are yours will come not because you chased them, but because they were always part of your story. So if something feels like an uphill battle, ask yourself, am I forcing this? Am I clinging to something that isn't meant for me? And if the answer is yes, maybe it's time to let go, not because you don't deserve it, but because you deserve something that doesn't require you to fight to keep it. Because when the time is right, what is meant for you will come and you won't have to force it. It will simply be yours. Well, wingnut feels like standing still. It feels like being stuck while the rest of the world is moving forward. It's in those moments of waiting that doubt creeps in. Am I wasting time? Have I missed my chance? Is anything actually happening? But what if the waiting isn't wasted? What if it's the most important part of the journey? We are conditioned to believe that progress is always loud, always visible. We think that if we're not achieving something tangible, we're falling behind. But growth doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like stillness. It looks like learning patience when we want to rush. It looks like developing resilience when we want to give up. It looks like becoming the person who is ready to receive what's coming. Think about a seed planted in the ground for weeks, maybe even months. There's no sign of life. To the outside world, it looks like nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, roots are forming, foundations are strengthening, and one day, at exactly the right time, it breaks through the soil. If the seed had been forced to grow before it was ready, it wouldn't survive. The same is true for us. The waiting is not a delay. It is preparation. So often we want to rush ahead. We want to force things to happen now because we believe that waiting is wasted time. But what if the waiting is the most sacred part of the process? What if it's the space where we become who we are meant to be? The moments of waiting are not meant to break us. They are meant to build us. They refine us, shape us, and prepare us for what's ahead. One day, when the right opportunity, the right relationship, or the right moment arrives, you'll look back and realize the waiting wasn't empty, it was making you ready. Because when the timing is perfect, what is meant for you won't just arrive, it will fit, it will feel right, and you will be exactly where you're meant to be. We live in a world that glorifies speed. Faster is better, instant success, instant answers, instant gratification. That's what we chase. We measure our lives by timelines and milestones, believing that if we haven't reached a certain point by a certain age, we've somehow failed. But real success, real fulfillment, and real joy don't come from rushing ahead. They come from trusting the pace of our own journey. There is no too late. There is no falling behind. Life is not a race where some people win and others lose. It is a personal journey, and each of us has a unique path designed just for us. Some people find their purpose early. Others take time to explore, to stumble, to learn through detours and delays. Some relationships fall into place quickly. Others require patience and growth before they arrive. Some dreams take years to manifest, not because they are impossible, but because we are being prepared to carry them. We often compare our timing to others, thinking that if someone else has already achieved something, we must be behind. But their journey is not ours. Their lessons are not ours. What is meant for us will come in its own time, in its own way. The things that truly belong to us won't show up a moment too soon or a moment too late. They will come exactly when we are ready to receive them. There is a kind of peace that comes when we stop resisting the process, when we stop believing that we have to rush, control, or compete, when we start trusting that every chapter of our lives, even the slow, uncertain, and frustrating ones, are serving a purpose. That purpose may not always be clear in the moment, but one day we'll look back and see it. We'll understand why certain doors took longer to open, why certain dreams were delayed, why certain moments of waiting were actually moments of becoming. The truth is, we are never late for our own lives. We are right on time. And when we finally embrace that, we stop living with fear and start living with faith. We stop chasing and start trusting. We stop trying to force what isn't meant to be and start making space for what is. And when the time is right, everything that is meant for us will come together, not a second too early, not a second too late, but in perfect, undeniable, and beautiful timing. There is something profoundly freeing about realizing that we are not in control of the clock, that no matter how much we plan, push, or try to force things, life unfolds on its own terms, in its own time. We spend so much energy trying to orchestrate every outcome, believing that if we don't make things happen now, they never will. But time and time again, life shows us that what is meant for us will not pass us by. It will come, not when we demand it, but when we are truly ready to receive it. Looking back, we can see it, the moments that felt like detours but were actually divine redirections, the doors that close only to lead us to something far better, the seasons of waiting that felt unbearable but were quietly shaping us in ways we couldn't yet understand. Nothing was ever wasted, nothing was ever lost. Every delay, every disappointment, every unexpected turn was part of something greater, something beyond what we could see at the time. The hardest thing we will ever do is trust without proof, believe without evidence, and wait without knowing when or how things will come together. But that is where faith is built. That is where resilience is formed. That is where we learn to let go of the timeline we created for ourselves and step into something far bigger than we ever imagined. And when it all finally falls into place, when the right opportunity arrives, when the right relationship stays, when the dream we almost gave up on suddenly becomes reality, we will understand. We will see that the waiting was never punishment, the detours were never mistakes, and the silence was never empty. It was all preparation. It was all part of a plan that was unfolding exactly as it was meant to. So we can let go of the rush. We can stop fearing that we are behind. We can stop doubting whether our lives are moving in the right direction, because they are, even when we can't see it, even when we don't understand it. Everything is happening right on time. And one day when we look back, we will be grateful that it didn't happen a moment too soon or a moment too late, but in its own perfect, undeniable, and beautiful timing.